You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. Before we dive in, let me do my usual thing. I need to apologize for my Hebrew pronunciation, because my voice isn't a real voice at all. It's an artificial intelligence voice, which means sometimes Hebrew words come out sounding less like Hebrew and more like a badly dubbed cartoon. So if I say something that sounds weird, please imagine I'm trying really hard. Today's topic is Anne Frank. Yes, the Anne Frank, the young Jewish girl whose diary has become one of the most famous books in the world. We're going to tell her story, not in a dry history class way, but in a fun, conversational way. So buckle up for a mix of history, heart, and maybe a few pop culture comparisons that would have made Anne roll her eyes at me from her secret hiding place in Amsterdam. Anne Frank was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1929. Imagine growing up in a normal middle-class family, playing outside, having friends, and probably arguing with your parents about bedtime. Nothing too unusual. But when Anne was just 4 years old, her family decided to move to Amsterdam. Why? Because Adolf Hitler and the Nazis had taken control of Germany, and Jewish families were feeling the heat. Like when you start to smell smoke in the kitchen and know it's about to get worse. The Franks hoped the Netherlands would be safer, like moving from a stormy beach to a calmer harbor. For a few years, life was better. Anne learned Dutch, made new friends, and went to school. She was smart, funny, sometimes stubborn. Think of her as the friend who always had strong opinions in your group chat. But then, in 1940, the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. Suddenly, that safe harbor turned into another storm, and things began to close in for the Jewish community. So what did this mean for Anne's daily life? Imagine being told that suddenly you couldn't go to the same school as your friends. You had to give up your bike, you couldn't see certain movies, and your parents had to register with the authorities just because of your religion. It's like being permanently shadow banned from normal life. Anne, like other Jewish kids, was cut off from much of the fun and freedom of being a teenager. By 1942, things got even worse. Jews in the Netherlands were being rounded up and deported to concentration camps. This is when Otto Frank, Anne's father, decided it was time for his family to disappear into hiding. He had prepared a secret space in his business building, which Anne would later call the secret annex. Think of it like an extreme version of hiding in the attic during a game of hide and seek, except the stakes were life and death, not just bragging rights. The Franks weren't alone in the annex. They were joined by another family, the Van Pels, and later by a dentist named Fritz Pfeffer. That made 8 people in total. Picture 8 people crammed into a hidden space behind a movable bookcase, trying to be as quiet as possible during the day. Imagine TikTok influencers forced to share one small apartment without Wi-Fi, air conditioning, or even the freedom to flush the toilet whenever they wanted. Life in hiding meant whispering during business hours so workers downstairs wouldn't hear them, no going outside, and always worrying that the knock on the door might be the end. Anne, being a teenager, found all this claustrophobic and frustrating. She missed her friends, fresh air, and normal teenage drama. But she also started keeping a diary, writing to an imaginary friend she called Kitty. That diary would become her voice to the world. Anne's diary is so powerful because it feels real and relatable. She didn't write like a historian. She wrote like a teenager. One moment, she was talking about her crush on Peter Van Pels, the boy hiding with them. And the next, she was pouring out her fears about being discovered. It's a mix of middle school gossip and life or death reflections. That's what makes it hit so hard. Reading Anne's words is like scrolling through someone's private messages during one of the darkest times in history, except she's brutally honest and deeply insightful. She wondered about identity, faith, the future, and what it meant to still believe in goodness when surrounded by so much evil. The diary became her outlet, her way of processing everything. She once wrote, "I can shake off everything as I write. My sorrows disappear. My courage is reborn." That line alone is enough to make you want to underline it 100 times. For over 2 years, the 8 people hid in the annex. Can you imagine spending that much time in lockdown? And I don't mean our modern lockdown with Netflix, DoorDash, and Zoom trivia nights. I mean total isolation, constant fear, and rationed food smuggled in by brave helpers like Miepkes and others who risked their lives to keep them safe. Anne filled those long days by studying, writing, and dreaming of becoming a writer or journalist someday. She believed her words could matter, even though the world outside seemed intent on silencing voices like hers. Sadly, in August 1944, their hiding place was betrayed. The Gestapo raided the annex, and everyone inside was arrested. It's still a mystery who tipped them off, and people have debated it for decades. But the result was devastating. Anne and her family were deported, first to Auschwitz, and later Annie and her sister Margot to Bergen-Belsen. Life in Bergen-Belsen was horrific. Imagine the worst possible conditions: disease, starvation, no hope, and then multiply it. Anne and Margot both became ill, likely with typhus, and died just weeks before the camp was liberated by British forces in 1945. Anne was only 15 years old. It's heartbreaking to think about how close she came to surviving and how much she might have accomplished if she had lived. Her father, Otto Frank, was the only member of the annex to survive the Holocaust. After the war, when he returned to Amsterdam, Miep gave him Anne's diary, which she had saved after the arrest. Otto later said reading it was like discovering a whole new side of his daughter. It wasn't just the Anne he knew at home. It was the Anne with dreams, frustrations, and incredible depth. He decided her words had to be shared with the world, and share them he did. In 1947, Anne's diary was published in Dutch as Het Achterhuis, which means the secret annex. It was later translated into dozens of languages and became one of the most widely read books in the world. Today, it's simply known as The Diary of Anne Frank. Millions of people, from middle school students to presidents, have read her words. Her diary has been turned into plays, movies, and even Broadway productions. But what keeps it powerful is Anne's voice itself. It's raw, it's unfiltered, and it refuses to let us forget that behind every statistic of the Holocaust was a real human being with a name, a personality, and dreams. Anne Frank has become a symbol of resilience, innocence, and the tragedy of lost potential. Her words continue to inspire people to fight against prejudice and hatred wherever they see it. So why does Anne Frank still matter today? Because her story feels timeless. She reminds us what it means to hope, even when the world feels hopeless. She shows us that one voice, even from a hidden attic, can echo across generations. In today's world of endless tweets, posts, and hot takes, Anne's diary stands out because it's honest and personal. It's not about likes or followers. It's about truth. She makes us ask hard questions. How do we treat people who are different? How do we stand up against injustice? And how do we hold on to our humanity when things fall apart? Whether you're Jewish or not, Anne's story speaks to the human condition. It's like the ultimate reminder that kindness, courage, and empathy matter far more than power or hate. Reading her diary is less like reading history and more like listening to a friend who went through the worst and still believed in goodness. And that's where we'll leave it today. Anne Frank's life was tragically short, but her words have lived on to become a legacy of courage, resilience, and humanity. Her diary is a gift that challenges us to be better, kinder, and braver. If a teenager in hiding could dream of a brighter future, then maybe we can all find ways to make the world just a little bit better. Thank you for listening to this episode of Everything Jewish, 10 minutes at a time. If you enjoyed this episode, please forward it to a friend who might like it too, or leave a positive review so others can find the podcast. Until next time, may we keep learning, laughing, and remembering the stories that truly matter.